Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from Fantasy Football Scout. Here we'll discuss the best armband options for Game Week 30, which is a blank game week. No more doubles. I'm quite glad of that actually because I like the odd double game week, but not every week. My name is Joe and joining me is Fantasy Football Scouts Tom. Tom, welcome. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Joe. Feels like quite a tricky week to navigate this one. So, looking forward to getting stuck in and having a chat about the captaincy.
Definitely. Just before we chat about the key candidates for the captaincy in Game Week 30, I understand you've got a few words to say about Fan Team.
Yeah, so the Champions League returns tonight, and there are several daily games running on Fan Team. We've got Man United and Atletico, and Ajax and Benfica up tonight, and then Chelsea are in action tomorrow. There's going to be some tips up on Scout at 5:30 today. Head over to Have Fan Team and have a look at those if you're into that kind of thing.
Excellent. Just before we move on as well, just want to welcome some of those that are joining us in the live chat. Colm, Ganesh, FPL Rank Chaser, Bernardo, Wayne and Tom of the Year. Thanks so much for joining us. Do press that like button if you haven't already, and do tell your friends to press the like button. Do open your windows, your doors, your house, shout out into the streets, press the like button, and also remember to subscribe. So you can also tell your neighbours to subscribe as well. Let's move on with the fixtures, see what we're dealing with here. So it's a bit limited and it's not a good week for the upside chasers. Friday 8 o'clock deadline and 8 o'clock kickoff, and so the deadline's earlier in the evening. Wolves against Leeds, and then Saturday just the one fixture, Villa against Arsenal, and then Sunday Leicester against Brentford and Spurs against West Ham. So we've got those fixtures there. I've got a big thumbs up from Harry Kane there because he's my bus team captain at the moment. He's the captain in my team should horrors happen to me in the meantime. And I've got another slide here which I've sorted it. I've been to the Fantasy Football Scout members area. I clicked on season ticker, put on Game Week 30, and I just pressed sort by difficulty, and that gave me a nice list which shows that Leicester on paper have the easiest fixture against Brentford, then Wolves against Leeds, Arsenal against Villa, Brentford are next up there, Tottenham against West Ham, and then obviously a sliding scale downwards. So Villa, Leeds and West Ham are deemed to have the worst of the fixtures here. But I mean, just before we get on to some of the players, what does this tell you about the captaincy? We should be captaining a Leicester player, but surely I want to captain Harry Kane. He's the best. Who's the best captain based on the fixtures?
Well, yeah, I mean, this kind of highlights how tricky a week it is. And that goes beyond captaincy as well, I think. You know, we've been running some pieces on site about the best goalkeeper picks, the best defender picks. Clean sheets are kind of hard to call this week. There's a lot of tight matchups, I think. If you're looking at simply fixture strength and going on a player because of that, I think you'd probably look towards Wolves, wouldn't you? I think with Jimenez up against a kind of a Leeds side who have struggled to keep clean sheets for a long time now. New manager gone in, but I still don't think they're particularly tight. No. Norwich had chances at the weekend, so that will probably be and the Leicester fixture as well. But neither of those sides inspire too much confidence, especially Wolves in an attacking sense. And that's what we're faced with this week, where, you know, we'll talk about Spurs in a minute, but those are the attackers you want to pick. But again, it's not an easy matchup in a derby against West Ham.
No, definitely. So it's a case of the teams with the best on paper fixtures haven't really got anyone we want to captain. Meanwhile, the ones we want to captain, the fixtures aren't the best. And so if this was a proper fixture schedule with all the choices there, more teams like Liverpool, City, etc., we wouldn't be considering any of this lot. But we are where we are. We have to captain someone. So let's have a look at so far me, Kane, captain. Is he your captain at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he is. I own Kane and not Son.
Mm.
So Kane is currently on Kane. I think it'll probably stay on that,
Yeah.
stay that way as well. Kane, I think it's 7 attacking returns in his last 5
Mm.
matches. 10 big chances during that time. 7 of those have been for himself. I think he's created 3 as well. He's on penalties, and he feels like the best pick this week.
Yeah.
I mean, we spoke about that fixture difficulty then, and West Ham isn't an easy match for them. They're flying high in the Premier League. They're still in Europe. But it might be a good time to play West Ham because they are in Europe on Thursday night. They've got that fixture against Sevilla. They're 1-0 down in that one. So that's going to be a demanding match on Thursday night for them. So a bit of extra rest time for Tottenham, who are in action on Wednesday. But the West Ham squad is also stretched. Bowen has been out injured, as we all know. And then at the weekend, Creswell and Antonio got taken off injured. So keep an eye on the team news for that, because if those 3 key players are missing, that's going to give you a little bit more confidence if you're backing a Kane or a Son, I think. And West Ham as well, we've said they're doing well, but I think it's 1 clean sheet in 10 on the road in away matches this season, which they kept at Burnley, who aren't a prolific team themselves. So I think this feels like it feels like where I'm heading at the moment with Kane as the captain.
Yeah, I think so too as well. And what would you do if you don't own Kane though, but you own, say, Son or Kulusevski or I mean, would you look to move, or would you be happy captaining Son?
Yeah, I would be. I mean, I know a lot of people were in this dilemma last week where people had Son and not Kane, and kind of does feel like Kane is the player at Spurs to own at the moment, but that doesn't make Son a bad option. He's got more assist potential than Kane. I think that's fair to say. And yeah, he's trailing behind in terms of shots and big chances over the last 6, as you would expect, really. But Son can brace in any game. Yeah. He can deliver. He's still a fantastic option. And I think if I didn't own Kane and it wasn't an easy move, if you're talking about -8s and real kind of squad structure issues to contend with, if you want to bring in Kane, I'd be more than happy to stick the armband on Son this week as well, I think. But I would put Kane ahead.
Okay, well, let's have a look at the figures, the stats for the last 4 matches in terms of expected goal involvement. And once again, I've stripped out all the players that aren't playing. This is just those with a fixture this time around. So obviously I want to see Kane at the top, but eagle-eyed people will see Kane is not at the top. And in fact, at the top in terms of expected goal involvement, and note this does include penalties, but all points, is Tony. Expected goal involvement of 4.34. Next is Rafinha, who he's going to score. So he's in my team. I'm going to keep him, and he could be a captaincy shout if you think that this is the moment. He's going to turn at some point. He's going to get more points, and he's got 3.32 in terms of expected goal involvement last 4. But next in the list is Kane, 3.22, so just behind Rafinha, but still way behind Tony here. Then you've got Lacazette. He's also quite way behind Kane, well under 3 goals he's expected to have been involved in, and also mainly assists. Then you've got Son, just over 2 goals. And then, we're really scraping the barrel down here. You've got Coutinho, Reguilon, Harvey Barnes, Saka, and then Martinelli. They're all sort of hovering around or just under the expected goal involvement of 2 goals. So, slim pickings, in which on the figures, Tony is the best, Rafinha's the differential, and Kane's the guy that myself and yourself and I suspect many other people will in fact go for. So what does this tell us? Tony for the captaincy?
Well, he's going through a bit of a purple patch, isn't he? I think it's 7 goals in his last 4. I mean, admittedly 3 have been penalties, but even taking those away, it's a good return, isn't it? I think he's really benefited from that formation switch at Brentford. Obviously played a back 3 for the majority of the season, but they've switched to a 4-3-3 of late, and Tony doesn't seem quite so isolated up top. Leicester as well, struggling with defending set pieces. We always talk about it, but that continued at Arsenal on Sunday, conceded from a corner. And so Tony's always a threat from those situations. Eriksen is obviously pulling the strings and had a couple of good back-to-back performances now. But going back to Tony, I think we should probably note that up until the 84th minute of the weekend, he hadn't had a shot. He finished the game, obviously, with a couple of goals, but he was offering limited threat up until that point. I think that Leicester will beat Brentford at the weekend. And in terms of bringing him in as an option, if you're on a free hit, I'd be really tempted to field him as a forward this week. Or in my forward options, but I wouldn't put him up there for the captaincy personally.
Okay, rightio. So we're still looking at Kane here. Let's have a look at the so-called whipping boys, the poor defences over the last four. So I haven't stripped these out. So this is just who they are. So Norwich is still at the top there. So Everton aren't playing either. They're second worst. Then it's Leicester. So this is perhaps another notch in favour of Tony for the armband. Certainly is a differential option, because when you got to go quite the way down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The 10th worst, or indeed the 10th best, because it's in the middle, is West Ham's defence there. Goals conceded just 3 from expected goals conceded just over 5. So Harry Kane, if West Ham, I mean, you said it's a timing issue though with West Ham, because on paper West Ham's defence could prevail, but it's the timing of it. Comes after in the middle of a busy European schedule for them. So perhaps that's another thing in favour of Kane.
Yeah, I think so. That's certainly where I'm looking. I mean, there are other options that we could kind of touch on there. I mean, Brentford, what's their XG conceded? I think it's 5.59. Who would you look at Leicester, Joe, if you were kind of going in there? I mean, we haven't got Vardy, have we? No. He's obviously injured. Well, so then you're probably looking to midfielders, I guess.
Yeah, so, I mean, if Maddison's fit, he's the one that's capable of goals and assists. Same with Harvey Barnes. It would be one of those two, but you have to think, who would you bring in long term? Unless you want a free hit, you can probably get both. But Iheanacho and Daka, I don't know where they're going to start.
That's the issue, isn't it? Yeah.
So who's your captain? And once again, it points to the likes of Kane. He's going to start. He's going to play.
It's a shame, because if we had a fit and firing Vardy right now, I think a lot of people would be tempted by that. I mean, Maddison doesn't even feel completely nailed at the moment. No. He's missed matches recently. Brendan Rodgers has preferred to play, I think, Tillemans and Ndidi and Dewsbury Hall in midfield. He said it was better for their pressing structure, and so that doesn't feel now. So Harvey Barnes is where I'd be looking. But again, they're in Europe on Thursday night against Rennes, and that might give us a hint as to who's going to start up front. If Daka starts that one, you might think Iheanacho is going to start at the weekend, but I don't think you're going to go into that and captain either of them, because you're just not going to be confident in that decision, are you? So.
I think also strategy wise. So my team might be similar. I mean, I have freshly wildcarded, so it's bound to be quite similar to a lot of other teams. But they might be the same as me in that they probably have got. I can field, apart from Salah, all of my midfield. And I want to as well. I've got Rafinha. Yeah. I've even got Jacob Ramsey at Villa. He's my fifth midfielder, but I want to play him. He's just scored himself, and he's a very playable option this week.
Yes.
So I don't have any space for any Leicester midfielders. So getting game one in, let alone captaining one. Strikers. I mean, everyone wants a striker who can score, because hardly any of them are. So and it's just crying out for that. But we haven't got anyone at Leicester that we can rely on for the armband. So captaincy wise, I think it is also in the favour of Tony as well, because I mean, Leicester are, like West Ham, involved in Europe. Brentford aren't. Tony will play. He will play the entirety of the match.
Yeah, for sure.
And he's on penalties. And Leicester's defence, as we saw against Arsenal, they love giving up penalties. So once again, it points to one of those two still. I can't think of anyone else. Let's just
Well,
look back at the fixtures again.
yeah, I mean, Arsenal Villa or Villa
Yeah,
Arsenal is the kind of the match I guess we haven't touched on,
yeah,
Paul, because it feels tough to call this one.
mm,
To me, it does anyway, because Arsenal are playing really well at the moment. I mean, they've won 5 in a row, but they've got this Liverpool match tomorrow, which is 72 hours before the early kickoff on Saturday, which it's going to be a big match for them tomorrow. It's going to be draining.
yeah,
I think if I was looking, I mean, we spoke about forwards then. I mean, Lacazette is one of the better options right now, isn't he? He's on penalties. He obviously got the penalty at the weekend. He's more creative than goal, more creativity than goal threat for sure. But he's been ticking over with assists recently, and so that's probably where I'd look if I was gonna go for Arsenal. Saka might be up against Ashley Young. Luka Dean went off injured at the weekend, but to be honest, I think Ashley Young defensively is probably better than Luka Dean anyway. So I don't think that's anything to get too excited about, really. But yeah, it's a tough match to call, and it applies to Coutinho too, doesn't it? I mean, he's been in brilliant Villa Park form. I think he's got 3 goals and 3 assists in 4 starts at Villa Park since coming to the club, playing at the tip of the diamond with Ings and Watkins ahead. But again, you know, you're not going to captain a player, I don't think, against Arsenal, given the way that Arsenal have been playing. And that just sums up a lot of the fixtures this week. They're very difficult to call, and it's really tricky.
yeah, definitely. I mean, looking at these fixtures here, Kane, Tony. I must admit, Saka is currently my vice captain, but that's in the absence of wanting to captain anyone else. And as we'll discuss in the Scoutcast later tonight, I've done a mock-up sort of free hit team, and I struggled. I struggled to fill the places.
Hard.
And also I think I've ended up with 3 million or 5 million in the bank. So
I was just about to say, you struggle to fill the budget up because the big teams, with the premiums aren't playing. I had to play around too, and you will have a very strong bench, I think, if you're playing a free hit this week, probably with. You know, you can afford to get, if you're going with Jose Sarr, you can afford to get Ramsdale as your sub-keeper and so on, really. But for some people, it will make sense a free hit regardless this week. If you're, you know, I think if you can get to kind of 8, that's probably enough to go in this week. But there will be some people with 4 or 5, and a free hit might be the best route for you in that situation.
Looking at the just before we go, there was a question I was going to ask you actually about captaining a defender in weeks like this. It is the kind of week to go different. We've explained why. Harry Kane, if you own, would seem an obvious pick, but he might not necessarily, in fact probably won't be the top scorer this week. So we're looking at those sort of differential midfielders like Barnes. Maybe Rafinha might score, maybe a Villa player, maybe an Arsenal player. What about a defender though? If you were minded, some people might seize this moment to bet on a clean sheet basically, and possibly some kind of bonus or attacking return, but go for that clean sheet. Where can you see a clean sheet here, and for those that want to captain a defender?
Well, firstly, I wouldn't, only because I've just finished up this morning writing a best goalkeepers and defenders article for Scout, strictly for game week 30, and it is really difficult to call. I mean, I came to a conclusion that the best chance of a clean sheet probably lies with Wolves this week.
Okay.
For me, you know, they've been pretty tight under Bruno Lage. I think they've overachieved on their underlying numbers a little bit, but they've got a very good keeper in Sarr, who's made a lot of saves. That was the conclusion I kind of came to, but it isn't with any confidence or any real confidence because, you know, Leeds have obviously got Jesse Marsh in, created a lot of chances, albeit against Norwich at the weekend. But I mean, I wouldn't trust the Leicester defence, for instance. Arsenal and Villa, I've already said, I can see both sides scoring in that. Tottenham against West Ham is 2 pretty good sides, and Tottenham's certainly not at it defensively of late, really. And so it's really difficult. So I don't think this is the week for captain and a defender. I think we have these conversations, and there are some weeks where an Alexander-Arnold or a Robertson or a
Yeah.
Cancelo kind of stands out. But because we haven't got those really good defensive options who, Tottenham are probably the one with the most upside in terms of attacking potential with Doherty and Reguilon. But again, you're facing, let's see what the team news brings with West Ham. But if Antonio's to be fit, Ben Rama, looked lively at the weekend. So again, I don't know. It doesn't feel like the week to me to be looking for a defender. If you want to go for differentials, I think there are differentials to go for, like Harvey Barnes and things like that. But even somebody like Son might be a relative differential, because I think a lot of people are going to go to Kane this week. So I don't know if you need to go that far down in a week with so much uncertainty, which this is what it feels like to me this week.
Definitely. I think there isn't actually even a barrel to scrape. It's basically just Kane at the top, and then some other options, of which Tony is amongst them. But I think if you own Kane, that seems to be the sensible play this week.
Or Son.
Or Son. So thanks so much everyone who's joined us in the live chat. Thanks everyone that's listened and watched this video and listened to the podcast version. And Tom, thanks so much for joining me. Good luck with your decision to captain Kane. Good luck with your very limited game week that we've got, and let's hope we can all survive it and move on to game week 31 when we've got some better options and more options. But for the time being, thanks everyone. See you soon.
Cheers, Joe.